questions for us throughout. We've obviously got time to answer questions at the end, but feel free to just stick any questions in there as we go on. I've also noticed I'm in the office today and there's a lot of DIY going on next door, so I'm really sorry if you can hear like background drills and stuff going on. I'll try and mute myself when I'm not talking. Right, we'll kick off. Daniel, do you want to stick the presentation on?
Yeah, sure.
Nice one, thank you. So we'll kick off just by doing a little bit of an introduction to youth music. So for those of you that are new to youth music, it's probably worth us just kind of giving a bit of a background to the organisation and kind of setting the scene a little bit. So we're the National Foundation for Youth Music. We celebrated our 20th birthday last year. So we've been around for the last couple of decades or so, distributing funds to support music making projects for children and young people facing barriers. And when we say facing barriers, we mean young people who've been identified as facing barriers because of who they are, where they live, or what they're going through. And that could be anything from rural isolation, low socioeconomic background, physical disability, neurodiversity, young carers, young people in the youth justice system, and so on and so on. We're lucky to be able to support around 350 projects a year currently, investing £9 million or so, and reaching about 80,000 025s a year, which sounds massive, and it is massive, but it's still only 40% of the projects that come, or the applications that come through to us, sorry. If we could skip on to the next slide, Daniel, we'll just give a quick overview of our various funds and sort of look at where the Incubator Fund and Scotland more specifically kind of fits into this. So our kind of current wider programme is made up of 3 key funds, which is Fund A, B and C, with smaller grants of sort of 2k right up to kind of 150k, depending on the size, the scale and the sort of strategic work of grant holders. I won't go into these funds too much as they're currently just specific to England-based organisations. We've then obviously got the Incubator Fund, which is what we're here to talk about today, which is of course focused specifically on supporting young people at the early stages of their music industry careers. Next on the hit list is a sort of direct funding programme for 18 to 25-year-olds, which is essentially going to be sort of cutting out the middleman so young people can apply directly to us to support their professional development. Again, we won't talk too much about this today because it's something that we're going to be launching later on this year, but just something to be aware of. And then the last thing to mention is that we've recently launched an access fund to support people who identify as being disabled to make applications, and that's applicable to any of our other funds. So if anyone does need needs any support when it comes to writing an application, you can apply for support from us to do that as well. I'm going to hand over to Daniel now, who'll chat a bit more about the background of the Incubator Fund itself, the research that we conducted to inform that fund, and then kind of what we're aiming to achieve with it as well.
Cool, thank you, Louise. So where this fund came from was some research that we've been doing over the last couple of years, particularly talking to young people taking part in youth music projects across the country. So we did a lot of consultation work to find out how youth music could better support people who were at that early career stage, as Louise said, people generally aged 18 to 25 who are looking to take their first steps into music and actually start to build a career. So we actually published a report in July last year called A Blueprint for the Future, which summarised some of the research that we'd been doing. We spoke to over 1,300 young people and over 100 people in the music industry to gather this together. And our question really was, how do you build a sustainable career in music? What does that look like at the moment for people starting out? How are people doing this? What are some of the barriers they might be facing? What are the obstacles that are in their way? And what's the industry and the education sectors doing about this? And how could we kind of work together to create a better environment? We did it just as COVID was starting to become apparent. So just as we were going into lockdown, we'd sort of completed the primary research and we wrote it while it was in lockdown. So, you know, the impact wasn't 100% clear of what COVID would be, but I'd say, you know, all the barriers that we highlighted in the report seem to have been amplified, you know, so it's kind of more important than ever. One thing that, you know, was really, really amazing about the report was just the number of incredible young artists and young professionals that we met along the way. And so we've highlighted some of them on this slide here. But people doing really amazing stuff kind of on their own terms. And I think that was the key focus of what we were talking about, and it being a blueprint for the future, was that actually young people are taking ownership of their own routes into the industry, and working collectively. So many side hustles going on, so much innovation, so much determination and passion. It was really, really inspiring. And so we were, the way that we were thinking about this was, how can we support young people to take more ownership over their own journeys, and how can we enable that rather than trying to do it for them. So I won't go into too much detail about the report, because I'd encourage you all to download and have a read. It's not a big document, and we try to keep it quite readable. But some of the key findings, and I'm sure these won't be a huge surprise to people who are working in this sector, was that the education and the industry sort of sides of the music industries, the pathways between them need improving. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Quite often the sectors are operating too separately from each other, and the routes from education into industry can be very opaque and difficult to see, and often where there's more effort put in is around the performing artists. And we felt that actually from our research we saw there wasn't as much support going in for those who weren't looking to actually become an artist or a performer. So there's some really good stuff happening on the ground, and we've highlighted that throughout the report, of what we think is working well. So lots of good stuff, lots of good case studies in there, but we think there's a lot more that could be done to kind of join up those two areas of education and industry. We also highlighted some of the barriers to entry, and who was feeling those more sharply than others. The industry is a tough place to get into. There's a lot of competition. We found unpaid internships was still depressingly familiar, and a lot of people were still being required to do a lot of unpaid work. We spoke about the lack of access to networks. If people didn't have access to the right contacts and the right people, they were really struggling to find out how they could progress on. And what we found was the people who were best equipped to transition in and start a career were those who had were the most advantaged and had those support networks. We also found that a lot of people are working freelance, and there's the gig economy, which is very precarious, and you need to be well placed to be able to ride that out to actually build a sustainable career. And again, that comes down to support, parental support and networks. So it's no surprise really that in terms of the biggest barriers, what we found was social class was absolutely the biggest barrier to getting into the music industry, and those that had more advantages were able to ride that out. But interestingly, we also found gender was a really big determinant as well. Found that women were far less likely to have access to support and less likely to be earning money from music. So that was depressing finding, and we've got some stuff up there on the slide that you can see around that. And then again, location, big issue. Those in the cities had access to far more support than those who were in more rural locations and in towns. And then also, discrimination related to race and ethnicity, that also existed, and a lot of people highlighted some of their experiences around that. So, lots of things to look at and to change, and we highlight it in the report. But I think, one of the key things that we found was that actually there was a lot of positivity, and there was a really inspiring story to tell here, that young people were working together and actually finding their own ways of kind of getting into the industry, and using the tools that we have at our disposal these days to sort of build their own networks and build the kind of scenes and collectives that they wanted to see. So, I'm sure you've all experienced this in your work. So it was kind of moving from that DIY and saying, well, young people can do this by themselves with this kind of DIY mentality, but how could we move that more to a do it together mentality and work together, collaborate. So that's what it was about, and that's where the fund comes from, was saying let's all work together, industry, young people, educators, and build some programs that will really give young people the autonomy and ownership to do the things that they want to do. So I'll go on to talk a little bit more now about the Incubator Fund, and you know, it has some quite specific criteria that were designed by the people that we spoke to when we were doing this work. So the focus on the fund is, as I've said, about that, creating opportunities for collaboration, bringing creativity and entrepreneurialism into your workplace, into your network, really giving, you know, investing in the young people to actually deliver their own projects and receive support from the organisation through that incubation, training, mentoring and networking. So what we're looking at really is representation, and you know, youth music, as Louise has highlighted, is about supporting those young people who are facing the biggest barriers. So if you look in our guidance, you'll have an idea about what we mean by who's underrepresented. And again, you know, read the report and you'll get a sense of who we're talking about reaching. But in terms, so that's in terms of the young people we want to reach. In terms of the businesses we're looking to work with, you know, we really want to work with dynamic, innovative businesses and not-for-profits who can offer genuine work opportunities and could potentially create more permanent ways of supporting talent from diverse backgrounds. So the way that applicants will need to apply to the Incubator Fund is it's about developing a project where 18 to 25-year-olds can really plan and execute a real project that will enable them to build up their project management skills, their track record and their portfolio for future employment. So we're going to prioritise investment in work that gives young people the autonomy to make decisions and lead. And the way that we're putting our money where our mouth is on this is we're saying at least 50% of the grant has to go directly into the pockets of the 18 to 25-year-olds that you're working with. And that can be, you know, it's flexible. It's up to you how you deliver that. It could be through a wage, so you could be employing them. You might be commissioning them as freelancers, or it might be through a kind of bursary or a grant model. But there's some specific criteria around that, which I'd encourage you to look at. And, you know, obviously you'll have some costs on your own side to deliver the project. So, you know, you can use the remainder to pay for what the organisation needs to make up in staff time and other associated costs. One of the things that we really want to see as part of this is, you know, a support package in place to enable these young people to succeed. So, you know, really leveraging your networks and bringing in people to act as mentors, access to, you know, professional networks, learning from peers, support in building that kind of portfolio career or whatever side hustle somebody might have. So yeah, what we'd like to see is organisations really bringing in their expertise to build a bit of support around that. But you know, ownership sits with the young people in terms of the project they're delivering. A couple of things on there as well. You know, wages do need to be at the real living wage. It's not a wage replacement scheme. It's not about just, you know, bringing in some interns and this will cover the cost for it. We are expecting employers to contribute, and I'll come onto it later, but there's something called the government's Kickstart scheme, which can help you contribute towards that. So the other thing to mention is we're not expecting you to work with, you know, large numbers of young people. It's about creating real meaningful opportunities. So between 2 and 10 is about the right amount, we think, but it will depend on the kind of project that you're running. So, you know, I'm not going to go too much more into the guidance because obviously you know, it's out there and you know, you can read it, and obviously we're available to chat through and have conversations with people as they're developing their projects. So we're going to talk a little bit more now to somebody who's been through this and who we funded in the first round. Before that, I just want to highlight some of the organisations who were successful in the first round. We had a really nice mix of applicants. I mean, it was very competitive. We had 160 applicants in the first round and we were only able to fund 30. Some of them are up here, so you can see like record labels like Black Acre, you know, Ezra Collective, a jazz band. We've got a lot of radio stations. Radio seems to be really popular. I don't know what it is about radio, but I think, you know, there's just a way of really giving that opportunity over to young people and getting them to take control. Works really well in a radio setting. So yeah, so these are some of the organisations we've funded, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Louise and Kathy and hear a little bit more about Creative Creef, who were funded in the last round. So I'll pass over to you guys.
Cheers. Yeah, like Daniel says, we're going to hear a bit from Cathy now, who's based up in Crieff and was the first Scottish organisation to be awarded Incubator funding, which is quite exciting. Cathy, if you're still there, I can't see you on my screen. Great. I'm going to just kind of hand over to you now to sort of say a little bit about Creative Crieff and about your organisation. And if you could just sort of tell us kind of why you applied and kind of what it is that you are hoping to achieve with the Incubator funding.
Yeah. Hi everyone, thank you so much for inviting me today, Youth Music. We're absolutely chuffed to have the grant from you. Creative Crieff is a relatively new organisation based in the rural area of Strathallan in Perth and Kinross area. We have formed from community who were concerned that our young people were feeling particularly disempowered in this area. We have got some really talented young people here, but there isn't really an opportunity for them to stay here to build their skills. So if they are showing an interest in music or creative arts, they do tend to go further afield and we kind of lose them from the area. Young people told us that they felt like the community wasn't offering the opportunities they needed. So that's why we were formed as an organisation. So I keep saying to people, I feel like we're in the business of raising aspirations. And I hope that this first big project we're going to do is going to help do that. So we're right at the beginning of our journey, and Youth Music has put their trust in us to try to help young people to build skills in this area. So we applied for the Incubator funding because we did a community consultation over about a year, and specifically young people said they wanted some more opportunities to both produce music, to create it, and to put on more activities and festivals and skill building opportunities where they can collaborate with the industry. Behind closed doors there's already stuff going on, but like you were just saying, Daniel, you know, so much of it's unpaid. It's not getting the profile it needs. They're not accessing the networks that they would like to because they don't know how to. We haven't got that progression journey. So we had an idea that we would be able to create a pathway for young people from this area through a program called Creative Youth. And so we applied to the fund. And how did I find the application process? It was actually not too difficult at all. I felt it was really good that we were able to present something that was raw and new and not polished in a way that often you are asked to present it from many funders. So it's very much in its development stage, and I think that's important because the young people will be able to use their new voices that we're going to provide this platform for them to actually help us develop the program rather than us developing the whole program up front. And also the process did not take days and days. We had a passion, and I think that the application form allowed us to be quite unique, quite individual in the way that we applied. You know, we didn't have to really think, you know, how are we going to fit this question. It felt like quite a good flow when we were applying for it. So what are we going to do with the funding? So our Creative Youth programme, it's going to be based firstly at our brand new community radio station. We are going to be offering leadership, skill building and qualification opportunities, as well as a platform and a space to create and collaborate together that feels safe and encouraging. So specifically we're going to be funding 2 part-time paid roles to manage the radio station and to set it up, and also a few other freelance roles in running some community engagement projects on the ground about songwriting and collecting the voice of the current community of Strathallan through song and story. We're hoping to partner with not just our local organisations but into the industry as well. We already bring quite significant industry contacts, and we're going to be utilising those in both training and mentoring the young people who are going to be in the paid employment, but also those taking part in the project. So we're going to be offering them mentoring with industry specialists, networks, and hopefully build those skills that can go on into the future. I'm really hoping that this project is kind of over 12 months, but the main thing is for us is paving the way for the future. So I'm hoping that if we're setting it up correctly with young people, that they're feeling like they would like to continue working with us, or to start to influence the next cohort of young people, so that the people who kind of graduate from this program will be able to then pass on their knowledge and experience to build a bigger cohort of young people coming through the Creative Youth program. So Louise, I think you were going to ask me how the IF grant is going to benefit us as an organisation. Yeah, sorry, I just wrote answers to all of these earlier. Can I steal your question?
Yes, you can. Yeah, the question, just kind of for the benefit of everybody else, is obviously Daniel's already mentioned about this being a kind of mutually beneficial opportunity for organisations and businesses and young people, and this idea of learning from one another. So the question is around kind of how you feel organisationally you'll benefit from this, and although at the moment you are kind of a one-woman band, how you feel as a workforce when that workforce does develop. You'll benefit from working so closely with young people and having young people on board.
Yeah, so of course visibility is a really big thing for young people and for everyone who's going to fund us, and basically our young people are a little bit skeptical about what's going on here already. So the fact that this grant has come in has already raised the profile of the organisation, because it's a national funder, and people have been contacting me left, right and centre. When are we going to be advertising this opportunity? What sort of skills do they need? How can they get involved? So it's really exciting that there's already a bit of a stir with our young people here. I think that the space for youth empowerment has just not been here, and this grant is going to set up the beginning of that and enable young people to really step up and be offered a space to be able to create change for their next steps in life and future generations, but with our support. This grant has also helped us attract a little bit of further funding, and I'm hoping even more funding in 2021, because youth music have shown that trust and belief in our aims and objectives. But I think being a part of something bigger, and that network that you're talking about, not just the industry, but also the youth music network itself of all the other funders, is going to enable us to make sure that we are utilising best practice, and that we can create even better networking and mentoring opportunities for the young people coming through our Creative Youth programme.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kathy, for that. And I can see we've got a question from Louis there, which we'll pick up at the Q&A section at the end. And obviously, if anyone does have any other sort of questions specifically for Kathy, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go on. So obviously we've heard from Kathy there. We know she was obviously successful with the grant and Creative Grief. Obviously submitted a brilliant application, and we're going to chat a little bit now about some of our reflections on what we felt made a strong proposal. I've got a lot of notes about this, so I'm going to try and kind of condense it a little bit. I think Phoebe also sent round in the email in advance a blog post that's on our website, kind of summarising some of our reflections on what made a good application. And obviously, Daniel and I are here, should anyone have any questions and stuff. But I'm going to try and spend the next kind of 5 minutes or so kind of summarising a few pointers. The first is quite an obvious one in terms of what is the offer for 18 to 25-year-olds, what's the offer for young people. And it's important to note, I think, at this point, is that where the application process differs here and is quite unique is that the applications aren't just assessed by youth music staff, they're assessed by young people. So we have a pool of young advisors who are aged 18 to 25 with lived experience who will be reading these applications, and their weighting is kind of 50% of the kind of overall sort of application mark, if you will. So as part of the application, you'll have an opportunity to fill out a form and also upload some kind of deck or video or written document which will be assessed by young people and is kind of your advertisement, I suppose, for what the role is. Some of the things that, or some of the trends that we flagged was obviously kind of a clear and interesting creative project or brief for young people to have some leadership over. It's important to note that what we're not looking for, I guess, is a kind of course or a learning opportunity. It's very much a meaningful experience where young people have autonomy to make decisions and lead on, like I say, a project or brief that they will have full ownership over. Something that we did see, which was more of a trend with unsuccessful applications, was a focus on business need first. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about this process being a mutually beneficial one. And obviously there needs to be a need to have these young people in your organisation, but that kind of has to be slightly secondary to what it is that you're offering these 18 to 25-year-olds. Where this could kind of be improved is by a more kind of collaborative approach. And obviously Kathy's touched on that about consultation with young people, but it really is important that when you are developing an idea for an Incubator Fund application, that you are talking to young people and finding out what it is that they want and they need. What else have we got? Another kind of thing that we saw amongst good applications was a demonstration of how you'll offer a kind of range of activity to support career development. In the kind of stronger applications, it was really easy to see how organisations' plans would help open up access to careers longer term. So there's something about longevity here and what happens after this project comes to an end. What's the long-term effect for young people and where do they go once this opportunity is over? We've obviously broken down the kind of overall, there's kind of 3 strands of the programme, and professional needs in terms of mentoring and networking need to be really strong. What's the kind of support network that's going to be around these young people? Who can they turn to? If you are quite a small organisation, have you got the capacity to support these young people, and do you need to bring on board mentors and partners who can support them and their learning? Something else that occasionally got neglected was kind of the more holistic side of things and access needs. To think about, if young people have to, COVID permitting, if young people have to travel to get to you or to get to the opportunity, is there going to be kind of travel and equipment bursaries available for them? Is there going to be appropriate access for any disabled young people? And what are the kind of well-being needs? It's worth bearing in mind, I think, for a lot of the young people that you might be supporting, this might be their first kind of foray into the working world, and what kind of support and kind of mental health and well-being support might they need. Thinking about the programme overview, the strongest ones that we saw provided information in a really kind of clear and accessible format. It has to be interesting. Even if you are just kind of submitting a Word document, how is this going to attract young people's attention? Bear in mind that these are going to be read by a pool of 18 to 25-year-olds. How are you going to make it interesting? How are you going to sell your opportunity to them? It kind of acts as a bit of a shop window to your business and the programme as a whole. And the best examples had kind of taken the time to design a programme overview for their intended audience. And it's really important that you use this opportunity to showcase a bit about what you're about, what the ethos of your organisation is, and what it is that's going to draw young people in to want to work with you. Again, I keep labouring this idea of it being mutually beneficial, but you're kind of selling yourself as well as young people selling themselves to you. Thinking about recruitment, and this is often something that is slightly neglected, is people will often say who they're going to work with, but don't necessarily explain how they're going to reach those young people. And this is something that takes a lot of thought, especially if you're recruiting young people who are underrepresented in the music industries. How are you going to ensure that they hear about your opportunities? How are you going to make sure that you support them? And if that's not something that you're able to do, alone, which, you know, who are the partners, who are the people in your local area that you can bring on board to support you to access these young people and to reach them. Like I say, partnership is massive here in terms of working with local youth organisations and people on the ground who can help you, like I say, to get the message out and to reach the people that you need. In terms of accessing young people as well, think about the kind of role that youth music can play within that too. We have an opportunities board, and there's kind of more information about that in the guidance, but kind of think about who else in terms of stakeholders can help you reach young people. Sorry, I'm rattling through this because I'm conscious of time, but like I say, if maybe Phoebe could link the blog post to this in the chat as well.
Yeah, I could do that.
Thank you. Thinking about an active role in the music industry, the kind of the focus of this fund, and we talk a lot about the kind of wider music industries and the opportunities that young people are going to have, and you know what we're looking for is a really kind of active and impactful role in the music industry. What we want to see is young people being able to benefit directly from your industry insight, your networks and your influence. What, you know, when young people leave this program, what are they going to have? Who are they going to have in their little black book? What are they going to have learned from you that they don't have at the beginning of the project? And what's that kind of direction of travel? And what's the change from where they're at the beginning of the program to where they're at the end? A quick note on budget criteria, and Daniel's already mentioned this, that the Incubator Fund wasn't designed as a wage replacement scheme, and we do have really specific budget criteria which does need to be followed. Again, as Daniel's already said, the requirement is that at least 50% of this fund needs to go directly to 18 to 25-year-olds as a wage, as a bursary or as a commission. There is a maximum allowance towards salaries per young person, which is 5k, if I'm right, Daniel? Yeah, he's nodding, that's right. Which a lot of people exceeded last time. And maybe partly that was, you know, not communicating as well as it could have been, but be mindful of spending some time to look over that budget guidance. Sorry, Daniel, did you want to chip in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say it was 3k last time, and so we've raised it up to 5k this time because actually it allows the opportunity to be more substantial. So yeah, it's 5k. Lots of people missed that, but hopefully they won't this time.
And in terms of wages as well, again, Daniel's already mentioned that payment needs to be at the real living wage or higher. Youth Music are a living wage employer. And yeah, it's incredibly important to us that young people are being paid fairly. In terms of submitting support and information, we will be asking for some financial information. I think it's fairly clear from the guidance, you know, what we need from you in terms of management accounts and so on. If you do have any questions, just get in touch with us, you know, to clarify what it is that we're looking for. One last thing before we move on is the big old elephant in the room, which is of course COVID-19. We've done quite well to get this far without mentioning it thus far. It's important to mention that nobody's projects are operating in isolation of the pandemic. You know, you might have had an idea for a project that will now need to be rejigged and reconsidered to take into account kind of social distancing measures and so on. We obviously can't tell you how to deliver the programme, but I think unfortunately it's the best thing to do is to kind of plan for the worst case scenario and assume that these restrictions and limitations are going to be in place for quite a long time. This is where consultation with young people is really important. So, you know, making sure that you've got appropriate safeguarding measures in place, thinking about what young people are actually comfortable with. Are they comfortable travelling? Are they comfortable, you know, working over Zoom, so on and so forth? And think about the, you know, relationship with stakeholders, partners, venues, and so on, and what they're actually able to deliver within the limitations of, you know, the pandemic. You will be asked to comment on how COVID has affected your programme and kind of how you're going to plan for this. And there's no right or wrong to this, but, you know, obviously we have to have an idea of how the project's going to be adapted to take into account restrictions. And obviously, you know, while we expect there to be sufficient COVID planning in place, you know, we as a funder have to remain flexible. And, you know, we don't know what's coming over the next, you know, the next few weeks, months, and so on. But as we say, kind of plan for the worst, and those of you that are successful can continue to work with us to, you'll be given a dedicated grants officer, and part of our job, their job, is to support you and kind of manage the situation accordingly. Bloody hell. Right, I'll take a breath and I'm going to pass back over to Daniel.
Thank you. So yeah, just at like 1 minute, and we'll be on to Q&A. I just wanted to highlight that the government Kickstart scheme I mentioned earlier, it is open now, and you can find out more about that online if you Google Kickstart scheme. It enables employers to create jobs that are 25 hours a week for 6 months, and the government will pay 100% of the national minimum wage. Now, obviously, we'd encourage people to top that up to living wage. The government also will pay the NI and the pension contributions. So it's part of their COVID recovery programme, and it's specifically targeting 18 to 24-year-olds on universal credit to try and reduce the chances of them getting stuck in an unemployment cycle. So it's looks like a positive scheme. It's been quite slow to get going, but it is starting up, and we'll ask you in the form if you want to think about how you could combine those two things, then do have a look at that. And we'll send this presentation around, so you've got all the email addresses and then like final details on there about the dates and stuff. But let's go on to Q&A. Thanks very much for listening, everyone, and hopefully Phoebe can take us through some of the questions that have gone into the chat.
Yep, so I'll go with the most relevant ones to the Kickstarter one first. So Giles asked, can we potentially mix and match funds so we can build a substantial offer for young people? For example, youth music, Kickstarter, Creative Scotland, EU, etc.
From Youth Music's perspective, yes, we would love to see funds combined to make the opportunity more meaningful and substantial. I can't speak for other funders around whether their funds are necessarily eligible to match with Youth Music funds, but certainly Kickstart and Youth Music we'd be happy to see matched.
Lovely. Ian asked, are 16 to 17-year-olds ineligible?
Unfortunately, at the moment, yes, this project is just targeting over 18s. So, it's about that kind of employment, and there's various complexities that become more relevant with 16 to 17-year-olds, particularly in relation to safeguarding and things like that. So Youth Music, within England has our Fund A, Fund B, Fund C, which go from 0 to 25. And I'm aware in Scotland, obviously, you have the Youth Music Initiative, which covers similar age range. But yeah, the Incubator Fund is specifically about that kind of early career point. So it is just targeting 18 to 25s.
So we've also got a question from Louis, who plays in a band, and how eligible sort of people playing in bands would be if they sort of put a small team together.
So yeah, it depends on what that project's going to look like and what you'd be doing. We did fund a band in the first round. So as I said, Ezra Collective applied, and what they are doing in their project is they're going to be creating an opportunity for sound engineers and technicians and live event technicians to work with the band, and they're specifically targeting women because they're underrepresented within the kind of sound engineering and tech world. So that's an idea of how that could work. There's nothing to stop a band applying. One of the things that you would need to bear in mind is how you are constituted to be able to access funding. So one of the things worth saying is that you don't necessarily need to have been set up and constituted for a set period of time for this fund, but you do need to, if you're like an informal collective, like a band might be, you do need to have some way of receiving that money. So that could be that you work with a kind of sponsor organisation who's the lead applicant on your behalf. Otherwise, if you're set up as a business, then that's eligible as well. So yeah, happy to chat more, Louis, afterwards if you want to go into any questions about what it could look like.
Lovely. Giles asked, what's the longest duration that a project can run? And RE COVID, have there been any project duration extensions due to COVID?
Yes, there have. Yeah, we've had to, obviously, maybe another national lockdown was predictable, but I think people were looking to have people in place and coming into employment at this period in time, and actually a few people now are pushing back dates, which we're happy for them to do. Happy to be flexible with that sort of thing. It's 24 months is the longest period of time that the project can run for, but if you push your start date back, then that 24 months starts at the point that your project starts.
Thanks, Daniel. Just confirming also, Kickstart is operating in Scotland, and it was the 5k, that was the wage, wasn't it? They're just clarifying because in the blog it said 3k. We'll amend that, but just to confirm.
Sorry, yes, 3k was the last round. We've moved it up to 5k now, so yeah, definitely 5k. And the application will all say that. Kickstart eligible in Scotland, as far as I know, it is. I'm sort of a bit hazy on the devolved responsibilities, so I don't want to 100% say yes, but I was pretty certain it is. Somebody else might have looked into it and be able to comment in the chat if I'm wrong.
Morag, who I've spoken to, has flagged slightly in the chat as well. I don't know, Morag, if you have any further knowledge on that you want to share.
Yeah, just to say, our understanding is, kind of as I popped in there, critical cultural skills and SCVO are leading these applications. So I think they go in batches of, so the opportunities, it's 30 opportunities. So obviously individual organisations can't meet that. So they're acting as this kind of gateway organisation. That's as much as I know, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much, Maura.
Yeah, great. I'm pretty sure it is the same for Scotland. And yeah, we're working with CC Skills as well. So I think they've put in a bid for 1,500 jobs, which they'll then allocate. So what will happen is people will apply to them. Once they've had the approval of those jobs, individual employers can apply to CC Skills to say, I want to take one or two. So they don't have to have the full 30. But they haven't heard yet. This is the thing, DWP are being very slow, so they haven't heard whether they've actually been approved or not. But fingers crossed.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
We actually applied for one and have been successful through Perth and Kinross Council, so we initially went to SCVO, and then we were talking to the council about something else, and I sort of mentioned that we were going to go through that route, and of course I'm just, at the moment it's just me here, so of course I can't support 30 placements, and the council actually put the application in with us, and we found out that we were successful about a month ago, but it is that we're going to have to top up, so it's at national living wage, but they also said that dependent on an individual organisation circumstance, that our council are particularly happy for us to apply to them for a specific extra pot on that, so we actually won't lose any money at all. When that placement's going to start, though, I don't know. They're going to dictate that as well, but yeah, it is actually happening up here, which is great.
Brilliant.
Did I also see something about Diva getting involved in managing Kickstart applications for the music industry?
Okay, yeah.
I believe Diva are, so it might be worthwhile speaking to them as well.
Yeah, Arit, who runs Diva, she's been involved in a lot of this stuff in the past, so I imagine they are. Thank you, Jen.
All right, I've got a question from Carol. If funding is awarded, does it tend to be the full amount applied for?
Yeah, we haven't reduced the funding amounts on many of the. I think we did it on one application where they were applying for some quite high-level studio equipment that we couldn't see a rationale for, although the project looked good. So we asked them to cover the cost of that equipment themselves. I think that was the only one where there was an adjustment made. We've tried to be fairly hands-off, when it's up to £30,000 grant, we're not going to be too getting involved on individual budget lines.
Cool. Charlie also asked, if the organisation applying is run by 18 to 25-year-olds, does that already count towards supporting that age demographic? They want to do a series of professional development offering artistic opportunities to aspiring musicians.
Yeah, that's fine. Great to see people under 25 applying. Not enough under 25s apply for funding, so that's really good. We've put some guidance in the FAQs about how you might adjust the budget lines then, because obviously your overhead costs are actually going towards under 25s as well. So like if you've got a staff member who's running the project, they can also be within that 50%. So sorry, it sounds a bit complicated, but it's not. Effectively, you know, you're also benefiting from the program, if that makes sense.
Cool. Jamie also asked, how much would an organisation need to contribute to the job?
We haven't put a minimum amount, but you know, we would like to see organisations contributing in any way they can, and that might be financial for some, but it is likely to be on a case-by-case basis that we judge. So what we've said in the guidance is that we'll make a judgment of whether we think, based on the size of the organisation or the type of organisation you are and where you sit within the industries, whether you're kind of fully leveraging what you might have to offer. And I'm not saying we're going to understand the finances of every organisation, because we're not. But if somebody is for example, we had some record labels applying in the last round who were doing pretty well, hadn't dramatically been affected by COVID, but weren't putting any money in towards supporting the costs of the young people who they would be employing. It didn't feel quite within the spirit of the programme. Where there's like really small organisations who aren't able to put any financial resource in, they might be saying, well, we've got these great networks that we're going to be bringing in, and mentors who are coming in as part of the programme. And so that's kind of what we're bringing, is that human resource. So yeah, it's sort of case by case. You tell us what you're able to do.
Giles has asked, can a potential project host residencies at other music festivals, but in international contexts? Giles, you'll feel free to unmute if you want to sort of say hi and have a chat about that. But Daniel.
Hi.
Hi, Giles. Hi. Yes, so this question came up a couple of days ago, and basically, the participants need to be from the UK, but if you are taking them to like an international residency, that's eligible. But the participants themselves need to be UK based. Great.
Just regarding Kickstart, the only challenge we're having on Kickstart is, unfortunately, the JDs and applications have to be assessed by Job Centre Plus.
Oh, really? Okay.
And as yet, the government haven't appointed as many employees to assess the applications, and they're inundated with Kickstart stuff. So it may not be for 2 or 3 months that we even hear from them as to whether we can do something.
Right.
But just to let you know, there's a long backlog.
Yeah. Cool. That's really helpful. Thank you.
We've got one from Rona, who said the organisation she works for is wanting to create a career progression development 12-month opportunity for an employee who joined the team through CJS/SCVO job scheme. Would this type be appropriate, of sort of that type of application?
I think it's more about creating a project that comes from the young people and is sort of giving them the opportunity to take a project on. So if it was like an extension to somebody's existing job, I don't think it would be as strong an application, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I've got the wrong end of the stick on that question.
Yeah, again, if you want to unmute and ask
to chat on afterwards, if that's easier.
Yeah, so it's so basically the person is proposed like a project, but they just like everyone's been hard hit by COVID, so like there's not necessarily the funds for them to take on the full like responsibility of payment, and it's a project that they've proposed to the organisation, so it would be led by the young person. And it would be facilitated by the organisation. So it's, I don't know if that would.
Yeah, it might work. Let's have a chat afterwards, Rona. The other thing that might work well for that person is the fund that we're going to be launching in spring, which will be, the grants will actually be between 1 and 5K. And it might be that, that's the kind of thing where we're really looking to support young people's creative projects. so I don't know what the costs are of that project, but it might be worth hanging on for that one as well.
Rich is just going to ask a question on the mic, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Hi everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces. Thanks for today. It's been really informative and helpful. There's been a lot of talk about connecting young people into industry, and I noticed in the blueprint one of the groups that face barriers are those without education as well. I wondered whether what the kind of view on projects which perhaps will provide access to industry through networking as a main barrier and that kind of thing, but also perhaps pathways into education as well. I work for a music education organisation, so I just wondered what the thoughts around that. You know, an extra step in that process.
Yeah, Richard, it's really about progression, and you know, that's definitely, you know, progression in terms of like somebody taking their next steps into maybe an education course that's going to support their long-term career development. You know, that's absolutely appropriate as well. So yeah, I guess it's hard when we're talking about like the industry, and we really didn't like using that term. So we tried to coin the phrase the music industries as a plural to sort of say, like, you know, universities are part of that. Education and community projects are part of the music industries. It's not just like, I think when we think of the music industry, we often think of the commercial sector. So yeah, we do mean it in its broadest sense.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks.
And then Giles has messaged me about whether we can offer, well, applicants can offer childcare allowance.
Yeah, so there's a budget line that you'll be able to include, which is access costs. So you can put in there a childcare allowance. I mean, we have had a few conversations about childcare stuff, and it, you know, obviously childcare is expensive and it can start to add up. So yeah, it is eligible, and you know, it's a huge barrier for young people. So definitely have a think about that.
Thanks, Phoebe. Yeah, this is maybe a long question, so maybe pick up with one of you guys after if that's easier. But again, thank you for today. We are, on behalf of a small charity called Sound Lab, we provide free music tuition to young people and young person-led organisation. So our idea was to employ a young person to coordinate this project, and then to employ young people from these backgrounds, mostly women and from BME backgrounds, as music tutors, who would then support other young people who are ready to make that progression. So it's almost like a three-pronged idea. First of all, would that be okay? And then a second, maybe specific question that others might be thinking about, we want to provide training for the tutors in particular around working with young people and working with young people from these backgrounds. So working with trauma, for example. Would the training costs be, would that be direct recipient costs? Would that be something we could attribute to the spend on the young people, or would that be an organisational cost that we should budget that as?
I think, to answer the second one, that would be an organisational cost. So that would be within kind of your 50%, and then just in terms of the whole programme itself, yeah, that would be something that could fit within the Incubator Fund.
Thank you.
Floor's open if anyone else wants to ask anything. Louise has also confirmed that the contribution from your organisation can be in kind, so that's fine as well. Yeah,
it's about relative. I was just going to say it's about being relative to the size and the scale of you as an organisation.
And often people don't put anything in kind there's a budget line where it says, you know, what are you bringing in kind, and we found a lot of people don't really add up all the things they're actually bringing. And if you start to think about it, you know, there's loads of things that you can include under there. So I'd really encourage people to think carefully about what they are bringing. The other thing, just to mention, I did say at the beginning that it was competitive last time around, and we were able to fund about 20% of the organisations that applied. We do allocate the budgets nationally. So, you know, we make sure that we're not funding everything in one place or the other. But where you can, it would be great to see, you know, I think there's a lot of people on this call who might already know each other, and where there's possibilities for yourselves to collaborate between different organisations, you know, we'd really try and encourage that as well. So one of the things that we've done on previous Q&As is just ask whether everyone's happy to kind of share their email address, and when Phoebe sends out the details in the presentation, you know, she can CC everybody in, and then if people did want to pick up any conversations, they can go ahead and do that. But equally, if people don't want to do that, then please just put a note in the chat just saying would rather stay out of that email.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And people are connecting over Aberdeen, so yeah, it might be good for people to sort of know where you're all based around and stuff. But yeah, all good.
Is there any final ones? I think we've got 1 minute left. Doesn't look like it. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate, you know, everyone staying on for the full hour. Hopefully useful, and like I said, you know, all the details will be in the presentation, which we'll send around. So if you want to have a conversation with us about your plans, then get in touch, and yeah, hopefully look forward to reading your applications.
A massive thank you as well, Kathy, for coming along and sharing a bit about Creative Grief as well.
Thanks. Please do get in touch with me if you want to have a chat.
Brilliant. Thank
Cheers,
you.
everybody. Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.